and welcome. The program is Clear View. This is the forum where we attend to issues of the moment. I am Odion Bello. You will agree with me that the issue of human trafficking is indeed trending. Months after 20 women and girls believed to be Nigerians were allegedly murdered while attempting to cross the Mediterranean, the news has continued to send shockwaves across the country. The news was swiftly followed by the report that hundreds of Nigerians, among many other trafficked Africans, got stranded in Libya on their way to Europe, and they are being traded as slaves. Nigeria is a source, transit, and destination country for women and children subjected to trafficking in persons, including forced labor and forced prostitution. Trafficked Nigerian women, girls, and children are recruited for involuntary domestic servitude and sexual exploitation, and boys for forced labor in street vending, domestic servitude, mining, and begging. As many as are being trafficked out of Nigeria, there is this category of people who traffic themselves from Nigeria. In search of what? Greener pasture, they say. Greener pasture, in quotes. Reports from the International Organization for Migration, IOM, say it was a tragic start to New Year for migrants from Nigeria and other countries, as hundreds of them crossing to Italy and Spain were found dead in the Mediterranean Sea. All right, so much about the unpalatable news. We have a guest in the house to clear the view on issues surrounding trafficking in persons. She is the Director General, National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, Naptip, Dame Julie Okah-Donli. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Now, we will start this way. Many people on their own volition travel out of the country without necessary papers, while others are lured, tricked to follow the traffickers. Are these the two types of trafficking, or do we still have more?
Actually, we have the internal trafficking and the external trafficking. The internal trafficking usually takes place when agents go to communities, rural communities especially, to recruit boys, girls, men and women and distribute them in other states of Nigeria for domestic servitude, and some of them are also taken to brothels for sexual exploitation, working in the quarries and things like that. Then for the external trafficking, there we have people who are like irregular migrants who travel with the smugglers as well. Smugglers, people who smuggle people across the borders and out of the country to various parts of the country in search for so-called greener pastures, most of the time through deceit, lies, fraud, and even abduction.
Is this a new trend?
Absolutely not. It's something that's been going on for years. It's just that it's taking a more deadly dimension, and it has become very, very high. You know, it was not this bad, you know, back in the days, but now, I mean, back in the days, people were actually, you know, going in search of greener pastures, or so they thought, and it wasn't this bad. But now people are deceived into thinking there are greener pastures there, and this time around, they are being trafficked. So, I mean, then they were going voluntarily thinking that all was good, and sometimes they get lucky, they're able to settle in and make something of their lives, but now it's all about deceit, fraud, and lies, you know. Okay,
now, there is this TP Act that I've read about. That is the Trafficking in Persons Prohibition, Enforcement and Administration Act 2015. What are the powers given to Naptip? Wow. By virtue of TP Act?
The powers are very wide. You know, Naptip has the power to arrest, to prosecute, to investigate. We have the powers of seizure. We can seize assets. We can freeze your accounts, confiscate assets. We even have the powers to search without a warrant, because time is of the essence.
That's if they're a sponsor?
Yes, okay. Because, I mean, time is of the essence. So we cannot afford to start looking or searching for a search warrant. You know, once we have probable cause to believe that something is going on, you know, trafficking is about to take place, we have the right to search, you know, to conduct a search without a warrant. The powers are so enormous and wide.
But how challenging is this problem now?
Well, challenging, it can be challenging sometimes, in the sense that information sharing sometimes amongst the sister law enforcement agencies can be a little bit of a problem, and also challenging in the sense that information coming from victims sometimes is a little bit difficult, but we are beginning to get around that now, because there are some control mechanisms that the traffickers use to stop these victims from speaking. They take them off to swear to an oath, and making them believe that their families will die, or they will die if they divulge information, or if they even attempt to escape from the den of the traffickers. And so some of them really get scared, but we've gone around this, because now we've partnered with the juju priest, and we've made them to revoke these curses that they placed on these girls, and then they've promised us that going forward they are no longer going to administer any oath on them, and they have become ambassadors for Naptip, and so it's easier now to get information from these victims. But the main problem is getting information even from Nigerian citizens like you, outside there. They see things and they don't say anything. So that is also a major challenge for us.
All right, so just talk about information sharing now. In that case, let's just go to your organization's intelligence sharing in partnership outside the country.
Yeah, it's quite good, because we partner with almost all the countries that are endemic, and they share information to an extent in the sense that when it concerns Nigerians who are victims of trafficking, or Nigerians who are traffickers themselves, we get information. But the information does not extend to the citizens of those destination countries. We also need to know how many of your citizens are being prosecuted, how many cartels in your country regarding your citizens have you been able to prosecute, how many of them have been convicted, because we share information with them. We can tell you offhand that we have 339 convictions so far. We have thousands of prosecutions that have taken place and still going on. We have so many arrests made, So it's also important that this information should be reciprocal as well, but we're not really getting that, and we're still, trying to convince them that it's very, very important they share such information with us, and they prosecute their own cartels based in the destination countries as well.
What kind of public enlightenment package do you have to discourage Nigerians from getting involved in this kind of acts?
The public enlightenment programs is all-inclusive. It's mainly targeted at the rural communities where most of these victims are taken out from and recruited. And this time around, it's not just restrictive to the young boys and girls. We're also extending it to the parents. The parents, community-based, community leaders, faith-based organizations, schools, NGOs, CSOs, the media. It's all inclusive, this time around, but we're mainly targeting the rural areas.
All right, as a Naptip DG, you should have about 9 months now. We want you to tell us about your work within the period, and while telling us, we want to have an idea of your achievements within the short period.
Well, I don't know whether I should be the right person to talk about my achievements, or whether you should be telling me what you think my achievements are.
Sometimes if you don't blow your trumpet.
But the truth is that the 9 months has been very busy for me. Yes, sometimes we have challenges, but not challenges that we are not capable of handling. We are very able. I have very trained and experienced officers and men in Naptip who are able, to take care of whatever the situations may be. that we are faced with. We are faced with all sorts of situations every day, from trafficking within, trafficking outside. We're also faced with situations of violence against persons, especially against children. We've had so many children, cases of children being abused with, injuries inflicted upon them by their parents, by their bosses and all of that. And we've been able to handle it very well, rescue such children and arrest the perpetrators. So far, I was able to establish the Naptip Rapid Response Squad, and as the name implies, they move in quickly, very rapidly for any intelligence we get. They move in. In fact, the response time is almost immediate. I was also able to establish the Naptip Regional, Academy Committee. They are going to look into the possibility of establishing an academy where we will be training all those from West Africa and all those officers, that are involved in human trafficking, that are in human trafficking units. We will be training them, because we've been doing a lot of training pro bono for a lot of officers over the years. Sometimes they come to understudy us, and we thought, why shouldn't we have a training academy where people can come and be properly trained and pay, and we can also use that place to also train our own officers as well. We've also been able to get quite a number of convictions so far. A lot of arrests are being made. A lot of victims are also being rehabilitated and empowered. So there's so much that's been going on really in the past 9 months. A lot of activities has been going on, and we're doing things a little bit differently. Now we're a little bit more proactive in terms of surveillance. We don't wait for information. We are carrying out more surveillance, activities, and we're hoping that this will really yield faster and better results as against just waiting for information.
All right, we've talked about rapid response. How do people reach you? You have some strategic telephone numbers.
Yes, we have 2 numbers that you can reach Naptip on anytime. Our officers are there for 24 hours at our call center. They operate for 24 hours, and every case that is reported, we investigate immediately. If there are cases that really don't have anything to do with human trafficking, we refer to the appropriate authorities.
Now, is your agency involved in evacuation?
Yes, Naptip has always been involved in evacuation exercises. As a matter of fact, the presidential evacuation exercise that is still ongoing, Naptip is also one of the members, and the lead is NEMA, and some other relevant agencies are involved in this particular evacuation exercise from Libya to Nigeria. But over the years, Naptip has engaged in evacuation exercises with other law enforcement agencies.
We learned that the evacuation process has slowed down. What is the problem?
There was some fighting going on by some militias at the airports, and even in the city, some buses conveying those who had been profiled and ready to be moved were attacked, and so the situation is a little bit tense, and we're just waiting for it to calm down, which I hear should be over during the week. Hopefully we're expecting more of the returnees this week, next week.
All right. So eventually, when these migrants are brought back, what is your role in their rehabilitation?
I want to remind you that this is nothing new to Naptip. It's not just something that started with the Libyan returnees. It's something that has started from the inception of Naptip, even before I came on ground. It's a total package that Naptip offers. From rescuing of victims to rehabilitation and to reintegration. When these victims arrive, I'll call them survivors. When they arrive, we keep them in our shelters. Naptip has shelters attached to all the offices. Okay. So we keep them in our shelters, and we start to counsel them. We take care of their medicals and, rehabilitation. This is the rehabilitation process to ensure that they are able to get a stable mind and their health as well is, they recover, because they come back with all sorts of situations or conditions. And so after that has been realized, we now engage them, to find out what exactly they want. Some of them want to go back to formal education. Some of them do not want. Some of them want skill acquisition. Some of them want little loans for businesses and all of that. And so we engage with our various partners to see where we can get help, and we help them to get back into the society. Then after empowering them, after the training process, we empower them, and then we reintegrate them back into the society and monitor them for at least 2 years to ensure that they are no longer re-trafficked, and then we now withdraw. We have some who have graduated from the universities successfully. We have some who are right now in the universities, primary schools, secondary schools, some who have acquired skills and are now employers of labor. So we have a success story. And in that regards, I would say Naptip has done very well. And I want to thank our international partners, the British government, the Swiss government, American government, German government, all our international partners. I want to thank them for, coming together with Naptip to ensure that we can tell our success story.
Will I be right to say Nigerian governments at various levels are also partners in progress in the rehabilitation effort?
Well, we're hoping that the state governors or the state governments will partner with Naptip, because this is not something that everyone should sit on the fence and watch just the federal governments do. Mr. President has spent so much money to bring back these returnees to Nigeria, because Mr. President has made it clear that none will be left behind. And so it's a very massive evacuation exercise we're looking at, and we're hoping that it's not going to stop with Libya. It's going to extend to other countries in Europe and even in the Middle East and in West African countries as well. So we expect that the state governors should join Naptip to ensure that all of those who come back are well rehabilitated, to support the federal government to ensure that they are well rehabilitated and reintegrated back into the society to become useful to themselves and to Nigeria as a whole.
It's a known fact that there is this sister organization, NAFDAC, battling with cabals that are involved in drugs. Are you facing some cabals too, powerful ones for that matter?
Absolutely. I mean, you have to be a very powerful cabal to embark on this kind of very evil trade that is very profitable with little or no risk. Of course, obviously, most of the time, unfortunately, it is just the agents that you're able to apprehend, but the main people on top are the cabals, that are really, really involved in this dastardly trade of human trafficking.
All right. You are fond of saying there is really nothing abroad. DG, what do we have here?
We have everything here. We have everything.
Why are they traveling? Why are they
ignorance? They're ignorant. 90% of those who travel are just sheer ignorant. Because, I mean, you always be a stranger in another man's land. There's no doubt about it. The kind of jobs they get are just dirty and very dangerous jobs. I mean, for example, if you're an irregular migrant, you don't have the documents. So you're not even, you cannot legally be said to be living there. You're hiding. You're sneaking. You're running away from law enforcement agencies, right? You can't have a decent job, and they will take advantage of you. Because if you eventually get a job, it's not going to be a good job that you'll be proud to say you're doing. When you come back to Nigeria on holidays, you won't tell anybody the kind of job you're doing. But when you're here, there's dignity in labor. There's so many things you can do here. Trust me. I mean, if this place was not good enough, you will find expatriates here who have lived here all their lives and are not ready to go back. They make the money here, and they go back to enjoy the money in their countries. So why don't you make the money here and go and enjoy the money in all these countries in Europe? That's the question I ask. There's so many things that one can do here. Governors are ready to give you farmlands now. Go and farm. Farming is big business now. Agriculture is big business. You can come together with friends, and there's a lot of softwares you can develop now. IT, a lot of our guys are IT savvy. A lot of our youths are IT savvy. There's so much to do. There's food business. There's so much to do. You can get small loans here and there. So many entrepreneurs. Tony Elumelu has this young entrepreneur scheme. There's so many things that the federal government has come up with, all sorts, for youths. There's a lot that can be done here.
All right. What is your funding like?
Funding in 2017 was not so great, but we are hoping 2018 is better because the federal government has promised that going forward, funding is going to be better. And fingers crossed, we are believing that all is well.
All right. Will you say you are winning the war? Naptip. Is Naptip winning the war?
Absolutely. We are winning the war because now Naptip has been able to arrest much more than ever before. Prosecutions are going on. We've been able to convict. In fact, in January alone, we're able to get 4 convictions, and we're hoping to get many more. That it's going to triple, many more than that, going forward. Yes, we are winning the war because the whistleblowing policy has been adopted by Naptip, and we are getting a lot of information, much more than before, even though we expect to get more information. So I believe we are winning the war. Awareness campaigns are going on, and people are getting more aware now. People now know who Naptip is, what Naptip means. People now understand what human trafficking means in schools and in marketplaces where we are taking this war to. We are taking the war everywhere, motor parks. So I believe we are winning this war, and we will even win it better going forward.
With your submission, you don't want to agree at all that growing unemployment rates has a role to play in all of this.
I do not want to disagree that it has. There are various factors when it comes to root causes of human trafficking. Of course, unemployment is one of those factors, but unemployment is not the factor. It is one of the factors, but not the factor. The major factor is ignorance. That's the major factor. And the mindset, our mindset must be changed. The mindset of the youths of today must be changed, where they think that anything but Nigeria is the best. Nigeria is your country, and you must live and work in Nigeria. You don't need to live or work out of the country to make anything meaningful of your life.
In my state, Edo, we have many sponsors, men and women. Are you apprehending them at all?
Oh yes, Edo State is one of the most active commands. Edo State Command, Naptip Command in Edo State is one of the most active. We have a very vibrant zonal commander who has been doing so much, who has been working tirelessly and very hard. He's doing a very good job. And we've been able to get a lot of convictions from Edo State. A lot of arrests, prosecutions going on as we speak, yes.
Through your research, why is Edo taking that uncomfortable lead?
You see, unfortunately, there appears to be too much concentration on Edo State and misinformation regarding Edo State. Reason being that there's so much concentration on Italy. When you talk about human trafficking in Italy, majority of those who are trafficked are from Edo State. But I can assure you that if you go to other countries, there are even people that are more than those from Edo State in other countries, in Europe and in West Africa. So we need to pay equal attention to all the states, because even those who returned from Libya came from 28 different states. Come from 28 different states. So it's not about one state. So I think we should shift this focus of Edo State to all the states in Nigeria, because they've become very endemic.
All right, you find yourself sitting in front of Nigerians and you want to send a word to them. Please go ahead.
I want to tell Nigerians that human trafficking is evil. For those traffickers who have seen this as a business, it's time to stop, because Naptip is no respecter of persons. Naptip will come after you. And for the youths, there's so much you can do in Nigeria. Make something better of your life. If anyone comes to you and gives you false promises and offers of jobs outside Nigeria, please call Naptip immediately. And to parents, don't be in a hurry to send your children out of the country. Anyone who wants to help you can help your children whilst they are staying with you. They don't need to take your children away from you to help them. Please call Naptip anytime for the avoidance of doubt. And Naptip is always there to protect you.
And the numbers to call are scrolling on the screen now. So just to make sure as much as possible, if you have information or you are troubled, worried, You can easily get in touch with Naptip through the numbers that are scrolling on the screen. Thank you very much, DG, for coming on to the program.
Thank you for having me.
My guest has been the Director General, National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, Naptip, Dame Julie Okah-Donli. Next week, we hope you want to join us as we bring you yet another edition of Clear View. I am Odion Bello. Bye for now.